added a couple preferred walk-ons lately, including a local quarterback from Tuscaloosa. What do you look for in those guys when you're looking about bringing them in?
Well, we sort of evaluate those players exactly like we would, anybody that we would recruit. We just have a limit on the number of scholarships that we can give, and I think having, quality guys like that, strengthens your squad, especially when it comes to how they compete for positions, how they push other guys, as well as, the look that they can give and how they can help, your team play better on Saturdays because of the depth they add to your team.
And with Seth, the local kid, what did you see from him, and what
Well,
kind
he's
of
just a really good player, and his size is probably a little bit of a factor that was probably had something to do with how he got recruited, and it's too bad that I had the same issues when I was in high school, and it's too bad that that's the case, but some guys were able to really overcome that and do a great job anyway. So we just feel like he's a really good player and fine young man, and somebody that we were excited about having in the program.
So backtracking to the end of the spring, I know you guys did the ball-out champion thing at different points. Did you guys do one for the spring as a whole, like a final ball-out champion or somebody who got the belt at the end of the spring?
We're just that's something that we try to do to emphasize turnovers, and our players sort of liked it in terms of we passed it around on a daily basis. So you basically get to keep it for a day, and then if the next day somebody gets more turnovers, then they get the belt for a day. So until we practice again, nobody's got another opportunity to get the belt. So it's kind of simple.
What did you see from the kids, when they were competing for that, when they actually had something to play for, to practice for?
Well, we really tried to emphasize the importance on both sides of the ball the ball. The ball. It's one of the most important things in football. And I think when Jason Garrett spoke at our clinic, he showed 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, 20-year NFL statistics on +1 turnover ratio in a game, you got a 77% chance to win. Your +2, you got like a 95% chance to win. And more than that, it's almost you never lose. And I think that's probably the most critical factor when it comes to critical statistical factor, at least, that contributes to winning and losing. And probably cost us in the Ohio State game. When we got some turnovers early in the game, we got ahead in the game, we turned the ball over in the second half, and we gave them a score, and it prevented us from scoring another time when we had good field position. So it was a really big point of emphasis, and I think that it helps the offensive players when the defensive players are constantly ball hawking, because it makes them take care of the ball. And it's something that can help us win a game if we can get more turnovers than the other team.
And then the rest of the recruiting classes said their role here in the next couple of weeks. Do you anticipate any of those guys not being able to enroll because academics or anything like that?
We don't have any issues right now, and we feel like everybody's done what they need to do. Now, guys need to finish the semester at their schools and get the grades that they need to make. And every time you feel pretty good about it, there can be a hiccup in a clearinghouse or somewhere. So we don't know of any of those issues right now, and we're hopeful that everybody will be there when we start out after Memorial Day.
There were some people who were tweeting last week, I guess people that were in attendance for your speech or when you were talking, and they put out something you said about Jason Garrett, about your time in Miami and how not bringing in Jason was something that you regretted or something along those lines. What was that in reference to, and what did you say about?
No, I was just talking about, hiring Jason Garrett in the beginning. He had never coached before. He had been a player in the NFL for like 11 years, and he had just retired. And all the coaches, I interviewed 10 quarterback coaches and was not really that fired up about any of them. And the coaches, Scott Linehan and all the other offensive coaches who had coached in the league, kept saying Hudson Houck was on our staff. They all, knew Jason. And they said, you got to interview Jason Garrett. I said, the guy's never even coached. How can you recommend him for a coaching job? And I interviewed interviewed him, and he was by far the best candidate. And I said that even after a year, after his first year of being a coach, I really considered him to promote him to coordinator after 1 year and call the plays, because he was that good a coach that quickly, because he's a very bright guy and really could relate well with the players. So that's basically, I think, the story.
Two more,
I
and
don't
then we
think
got to slide
we
over.
got to talk to you really since the draft. And do you have any thoughts on where your guys went and just how that all played out for you guys? Another year with the first rounder and a pretty big haul.
Well, you know, I was happy that we have 13 guys overall, and Blake with a tryout would be 14 that have an opportunity. I think that, you know, there was a couple other guys that I thought might get drafted that didn't, and I thought Landon Collins would definitely get drafted, you know, in the back end of the first round, only because of his position, and I was a little surprised that he didn't, but you know, he's the first guy picked in the second round, so and he's going to a really good organization in the Giants. So what I try to emphasize with the players is, you know, that all they think about is where they're going to get drafted. But where you get drafted really is not, when you get drafted is not really that important. It's what you do with the opportunity that you get when you get drafted, because that's just the starting point. You know, the whole objective is to have a good, long, you know, effective career. Because, you know, that's when you really have a chance to, you know, create a legacy for yourself as well as some financial security.
With the new cost of attendance, you know, starting this year, Alabama, at least in the SEC, is in the bottom half of that. You know, several other schools can offer twice as much, seemingly offer twice as much scholarship.
Well, we haven't even established what our cost of attendance is going to be yet. All right, so
Well,
I think the concept of paying players more is giving players more, or maybe paying is the wrong term to use, but giving players more in terms of what their scholarship is something that all of us as coaches were for. And I want to make sure that everybody out there knows that I'm very supportive of that. To do it the way we did it is going to be a nightmare, because we've spent 100 years in the NCAA trying to make everything equal. So no extra benefits. Nobody could get something that somebody else couldn't get. All right, and now you leave it up to the institution, and I think, you know, some people have manipulated their numbers because they significantly changed from last year to this year, and that's not the spirit of this rule. You know, everybody has historically, from an academic standpoint, tried to keep the cost of attendance down. You know, it's a benefit to the students, it's a benefit to their scholarships. So now all of a sudden, it's going to be different, and I don't think that's good. You know, every competitive league, whether it's the NFL or whatever, does everything they can to create parity. So now you've taken the basic #1 thing and made it unequal, you know, for some schools. And whether we were at the top or the bottom, I would feel the same way about that. Because I don't think this is something that should be manipulated to create an advantage for yourself in recruiting.
Thank you.